Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with specialists from around the world. I'm your host for today, Mark Walsh. On the show today, Alex Svoboda. So Svoboda, which I'm killing with my pronunciation, means freedom in Russian and a number of other Slavic languages. He is the founder of Freedom Dance, a long-term conscious dance practitioner, but also coming out of a background in business training, business management. So Alex, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Now, I know you travel a lot. Where are you in the world today? I
am actually at home in London. And I do travel less now than I used to, so it's becoming more and more common for me to be here at home.
We bumped into each other on a plane on the way back from Moscow, if I remember rightly, once.
That's true. Yeah.
And how did you get interested in the body? Tell us your journey with this.
Well, I think I was always interested. When I was a little kid, in particular, I think I played with the body quite a lot. I was fascinated with the circus, with the acrobats, with, for some reason, even back then, in growing up in the Soviet Union, I heard about yoga already, and I'm talking 70s. And then there was a break, really, when I focused more on the academic side of things, and I became a very good student. For many years, I went all the way into that mind aspect, but then everything kind of finds its way. So by the age of maybe 28 or so, maybe even before that, I started doing yoga, getting back into this sort of physical aspect of our being. Yeah, and from there, for some time, it coexisted. I would do mind analytics, report writing, management at daytime, and then yoga or something else like in the evenings. And then it took over somehow, the body side or movement side, when I discovered dance.
And is that what you're doing full time now? Are you still doing the business work? I know you were with London Business School, I think, for a while. Like, what does your life look like now?
It's actually a big experiment for me at the moment that I'm trying not to do, or at least I'm not actively seeking any corporate work for the time being. So I gave myself a deadline of the end of 2019 to see whether I can actually whether I manage to live comfortably and generate enough income exclusively from teaching freedom dance. So that's, I think it's today, you caught me on a good day. I got quite a few payments came in, and I think, maybe I'll make it.
Maybe I'm doing it. Because it can be quite a big difference in income. I mean, I know some pretty successful movement teachers who don't make as much money as pretty average business consultants.
Exactly. I think doing what we are doing, even being at the top of the pyramid, if you wish, founding the school and running teacher training, it's not a very lucrative field. So if we were after money, we should go, into banks and consulting.
I was thinking about this, because I do some embodied business training. I do less than I used to, just because I don't enjoy it so much. But I was thinking, if I ever just had to buy a house, or I needed some money for an operation for my wife or something, I'd just go back and do a load of standard business training and do 2 years of that and make a bunch of money. If I had to, it's nice to have that potential, but it's not what not what makes my heart sing these days.
And I had conversations with other people, and they say, "Oh, Alex, you're so lucky. You've had this history, so you have something to go back to if you really need to." And some people don't have that background. I did it. I decided it was a conscious decision not to take any corporate work, or rather not to seek any corporate work.
Yeah.
as a result of a conversation with one of my organizers. She lives in Siberia, and she said, Alex, you have no idea, because you've been living so comfortably, and for you, this traveling and giving workshops, it's like it looks so appealing and it looks so nice, but you can only do that because you keep bringing money from elsewhere. And you are misleading people, inviting into this world, and you don't know how difficult it is actually to survive. You know, if you all of a sudden decide to do a full-time conscious movement teacher. So I decided I would give it a go. And that also forces me to invest more in promoting our school and making sure that people actually can make some money. So if our mission is to make what we love more accessible,
yes,
we need to make sure that people who teach it also can actually teach it, rather than, like we were discussing, going into business, doing IT, doing consulting, doing whatever they can do, I don't know, real estate, etc. So that's been an interesting experiment for me.
Yeah, well, credit to you for doing that, because I think it is a part of making what we do sustainable. And also, like, as this person challenged you on the ethics of sort of training teachers, as we both do, to say, hey, this is something you can make a living from. And it might take a little while, and you do have to work really hard, but this is something you can make a living from. Or else there's, I know a lot of yoga teachers who are propped up by their husbands or their wives, normally husbands, if I'm honest, and or who have a second yoga teachers who have a second stream of income, and then maybe they're web designers, and their website looks fantastic because they're able to either have the skills themselves from the business world, or that they're able to finance it from the business world. And that's if they're training teachers, that is potentially an integrity issue, I would say.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, I just saw a squirrel in my garden, so I
squirrel.
My movement in nature.
Well, maybe let's talk a little bit about freedom dance. And so this is your own practice. So you founded a school. Previous to that, you were doing, I guess, a lot of fire rhythms. And was there other major influences to it?
It's very interesting that we begin to actually, I think that I founded a school, not a practice.
Uh-huh.
The practice, I think we are beginning to agree what it is, what we do, which is a sign of us becoming a profession that is recognized. At least we recognize that we are working in a particular field, and it's a new profession, a relatively new profession. Mm-hmm. So we define freedom dance as school of dance, meditation, and conscious movement. And of course, dance meditation is part of conscious movement, but we wanted to highlight that this is really our bread and butter. Our kind of entry point is really short sessions where you can potentially connect with dance as a meditation. You don't have to. You can treat it as a nice time, but potentially you can practice your meditation in movement if you decide that that's what you wish to do. So that's, and of course, it looks like a different term is taking over, which is conscious dance, which kind of combines the two, but introducing dance specifically. So I guess for most people, and I hear it more and more from people I don't expect to hear. I met someone and I said, I do freedom dance, and I would go into a description, what our classes look like and what we do. And he says, oh, you're a conscious dance teacher. I said, wow, that's...
Yeah. Well, that's great that people are learning. We've got the Conscious Dance Festival coming up with this. There was Conscious Dancer magazine. So maybe that will be the term that catches on.
Yeah. For now, we are keeping it like dance, meditation, and conscious movement. Just to highlight, we wanted to keep dance because that's what we do, and there is a lot of discussion around it. People are scared when we say dance, but then they say we call ourselves dancers. Like, we need to name what we are rather than. And we wanted to keep movement as well, because if you go to to our workshops and retreats, some of the stuff that we do doesn't look like dance at all.
Yeah.
So dance is a very accessible entry point, but then the more you progress, you discover that there are things you can do with the body that doesn't require, props from the music, that can look like a movement exploration, really, or an expression, but you wouldn't call it a dance in a conventional sort of way. So I'm keen on talking about conscious movement as well. So that's what we do. And yes, my entry point into this field was through 5 rhythms, through 2 classes in London. I discovered a class that Kathy Ryan taught, and then Bodhi. So this was my introduction, and then of course I met a lot of other teachers. And the thing that struck me when I was doing it, actually maybe even later when I started to reflect on it, is that how many things these practices have in common. For example, I practiced yoga for a long time before discovering dance meditation. And, in yoga, we place a lot of emphasis on the legs and getting the strong base before we do anything with the upper body and hands and arms. It's the same principle. It just, like anywhere you go, if you want to go deep into your dance, if you want to increase your chances of getting into this meditative state while dancing, you really have to start bottom up. So, and there are many things like this. I've been doing, for example, even before I started dancing, I was going to India to do Ayurvedic cleansing. That's one of my doctors introduced me to it, and I got really fascinated. And of course, this Ayurvedic medicine deals with different elements, and that's everywhere. Everyone is talking about water and fire and earth and ether that holds everything, and air. Like it's obviously very universal, and it's also very easy for for all of us to grasp it, because it's ancient knowledge, ancient labels put on things that surround us all the time, except ether. Maybe you need to kind of include your imagination a little bit and reflect on where all these things are, and etc., etc. So of course, after that I met, actually after Gabrielle Roth died, I was in a state of crisis for some time, because it's very hard to lose a teacher. I never thought I would be affected so much and disoriented so much. And then I saw a little clip on Facebook. Maybe I watched it for 20 seconds, and it was an old woman moving, covered in mud amongst the roots of the trees and earth. And after 20 seconds, I stopped watching and I started searching. I said, I need to be there. I need to dance with this woman. So like 20 seconds was enough to see, oh, this is what I want to do. And that woman was Anna Halprin, of course, who's still in, she's still around. And although she doesn't teach, unfortunately, anymore, from what I can tell from her newsletters. So, and she's 99, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You're better with numbers than me. But so I've done a few workshops with her. And again, I could see how these universal themes come so strongly in her teaching. And what I picked up from her in particular that got integrated into Freedom Dance kind of universe is this idea of polarities. And, she says everything can be expressed as a polarity. So we use this tool of polarities because it's so obvious and kind of easy to grasp for anything, slow or fast, up or down, towards or away, those kinds of things. So it's really helpful in our movement explorations and opening options for people who arrive to the dance floor. So I could probably go on and on and on about other teachers who, like there is Skinner releasing technique, which I love, and there is, like other things that kind of give little sort of all of a sudden something becomes clear when you do something different. Well, I'm grateful to your course, Embodied Facilitators course, where I had to do boxing and heavy weights and karate. Again, so many universal themes in such different fields. It just, at the end of the day, you think it's all about the same. So it's all about the same.
And why did you call it Freedom Dance? And not only that, but since we last met, you've actually changed your name to Freedom in Russian. So, this is obviously a core thing for you.
I mean, I started teaching 10 years ago exactly. So, and in August 2005, I think. No, what am I talking about? 2009. In August 2009, this name came to me. For some reason, I knew that I wanted to take this, not for some reason, someone actually convinced me that, Alex, you need to come to Russia. You have to give something back. I left Russia with my partner, and we settled happily in London. I never thought I would go back, really.
Yeah.
I was quite happy to be here rather than... And then I met this young lady, Shakti, she's, I think maybe now they're married. She was a girlfriend of my old friend of mine. And she convinced me, you need to, you're a great mover, you facilitate so well, you present well, you should come, I'll organize for you. So we started thinking, what shall I... how to go about it. And that's when the name came, particularly because I was kind of targeting Russia. And for me, coming from a society which is fundamentally not free, I think that's a very special word.
There's a longing there, isn't there? There's a deep longing and a people thought they had a certain amount of freedom at a certain point, and then there's the piece around sexuality there. I've spent a lot of time there, and I really do feel that longing from people.
And I think that's my experience of dance, that at least for those 2 hours or whatever, I really feel free. I really feel free. That's something I cannot compare with anything else. I mean, I can probably. I did windsurfing for the first time, and it's kind of this sense of, the wind is carrying you. I don't know. It's like, So there is a lot. There is almost like this political or historic, personal history element that I wanted to. This is the taste that we would like to experience, and hopefully, kind of almost tune our internal radar and see what. This feels like freedom. This feels like dance. Yeah, I'll go there. This group of people reminds me when I'm with them. It reminds me of how I feel when I dance. Why don't I spend more time with them and see where it takes me? It's like all this, this is really a test, an internal test that, do I feel free doing this? Do I feel free talking to this person? Do I feel free on this project?
Alex, do you mind if I jump in there? Because something you said there really, I felt it in my body, really resonated. The idea of almost like giving people a template for freedom. Like, this is what freedom feels like. Because many of us don't have freedom. And in some places it's worse than others, depending on your sexuality or ethnicity, whatever. But how can I put this? I'm really on the leading edge of my thinking here, that if people don't have a felt sense of what freedom is, there'll always be a longing. There may be a political movement towards it, but there isn't like a no, I need this because I know what it is. And even to experience that for an hour or two in the body can be profoundly transformative, because people go, no, this is not a nice to have. This is a birthright. This is part of me. And it's, I look at what's going on in Russia now with various kind of political movements and pushback against Putin. I wonder how much of that is young Russians who have experienced a felt sense of freedom in the body doing practices in Thailand and Goa and all these places young Russians go these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's actually, yeah, there is a lot in it. And I remember when Suri Cards went to Russia for the first time, and she said, like when she was teaching, she was using, this is a revolution, we are including the body. And I think potentially it could be quite a radical shift if you experience it, and you know that you have access to it, and you know that, like now, for example, we have classes, you can go and remind yourself what it feels like. So
the reminder, in the bodily reminder of what it feels like.
And that when you go back to the office, when you go back to your car, when you go back to your metro, you still kind of have this sense, oh, does it feel right? Or like there is always, particularly with practice, particularly when it's not a one-off. I've had so many. I was addicted to taking this to new places.
Yeah,
I've traveled to such cities that I don't know.
You go some places in Russia I've never been that are really they're really out in the, because this rural Russia, that's a whole different thing than Moscow and St. Petersburg, isn't it?
Yeah, and sometimes I would think, why would I be here spending my weekend here at this place?
Old communist building.
And then you get to the dance floor, and it's all the same. Wherever it is, it's like it's another paradox. But I forgot what I was going to say.
Let me come back to something you just said, because as much as anything, I want to remind it to myself that by giving people a physiological, felt, embodied sense of freedom, it stops them forgetting that, because this is when we're in unfree places, unfree offices, unfree societies, unfree situations to our sexuality or gender or whatever, that we're constantly being told to forget about freedom. We're constantly pressured into numbing and forgetting the idea of freedom. So we need to remind ourselves of it regularly, so that when we're in a relationship that isn't free, let's say it's just a partner who's slightly abusive, for example, or an office which isn't free, we go, yeah, fuck this doesn't feel good. We recognize it because we've got a like you saying about Anna Halperin, there's a reference point. It's not that, it's something else. It's not freedom, it's something else. So we've got that second reference point where we can go, oh, this isn't good.
I agree with you completely. And I think that's the meaning of what we do. And that, while you were speaking, I remembered why I started talking those towns and the cities that I visited. Because in many places, people would come at the end of my workshops, people would be crying and saying, oh, how could I live for 55 years and not know that I can be that free? And I would say, wow, this lady's gonna, obviously there's been a breakthrough. She's now with us or with this. And you'll never see those people again, ever. I saw it so many times when someone has such a euphoric one-time experience, and it is so scarily different from everyday life at home, in the public transportation, at the place where they work, etc., so that they are actually afraid to come back. That's the only way I can explain it, because those people, I never see them again. And I think we are now in a much better place, where in many places we offer short classes that are more affordable, that are regular. You can come once a year, you can come once a month, you can come once a week.
Right.
And they are, I think, much better, actually, way of gradually building this habit and of recognizing and, kind of going softly with this awareness. And at least, I left, the next workshop is in 6 months or in a year. Like, I feel actually I betrayed that lady,
Right, yeah. It's like,
What
you're
is she
giving
gonna
such a
do?
strong experience with a workshop, right?
Yeah, so that's
That.
why I think it's really important and really good that we got to the place where there are more teachers and there are regular classes, and we can offer this as a practice rather than like one festival of freedom and then forget, go deal with it.
Yeah, well, it's almost cruel, isn't it? We laugh, but it's almost cruel because it's almost like opening up freedom and then taking it away before someone can access it themselves regularly. And then a very deep workshops are often very deep experiences. And it is something about the sort of regular practice of just, I find if I get a pretty regular Wednesday night class, but if I miss a couple of weeks, it takes me about 3-4 weeks and I lose the taste. And then I'm in there and I feel awkward again, and I'm like, what do I do? What are the instructions? And there really is like a time frame for me where I lose it.
Yeah, I think it's really the regular practice works best.
Quick interruption to tell you about my book, Embodiment. Creatively named, hey? Actually, Embodiment Moving Beyond Mindfulness. You can find this online at theembodimentbook.com. That's theembodimentbook.com. So this book is an introduction to the whole field. If you like these interviews, you'll probably love this book. Funny stuff, poems, personal stories from my life, illustrating what embodiment's all about, and loads for professionals in the field too. Top teaching tips, language tips, that kind of thing. Yeah, a real condensation of everything I've learned about embodiment, basically. So you can get pre-orders at Amazon.com, and if you just put in Embodiment Moving Beyond Mindfulness, that's the name of the book, or go to theembodimentbook.com. On there, you'll see quotes from various teachers, a bunch of fun illustrations, and you can also get the first chapter completely free online at theembodimentbook.com. Enjoy, and back to the interview. Like, how often are you advising someone that kind of gets a lot from movement, from dance? How often do you think they need to be doing that free kind of movement? Like someone like me, I walk, I do martial arts, I do other yoga maybe as well. But how often do you think someone needs to do that?
Well, I think you're describing yourself, which is not an average sort of person.
You're saying I'm not average, Alex?
To the gym. And maybe aspirationally 3 times a week, but in reality 1 or 2 times a week.
Yeah.
Maybe every other weekend goes for a walk or something, or does runs or plays football with someone, or kind of. It for most people, it's physical activity is still very much an aspiration rather than the reality. So I would say people like that, if they can commit to doing a weekly class, that's perfect, because that's physical movement. That's an opportunity to kind of release the stored emotions that, because we through music and through connection with different kinds of music that we play, there is always space to kind of, I couldn't be angry with my boss, but I can have an angry dance now, and it's really good. So I think, or for example, we have to be in a professional situation and there is a death in the family and we carry a lot of grief, and then a sad song goes on and we can actually be with it and be acknowledged. Oh God, there is art that acknowledges how I feel, and I can move like this. So I think this expression, giving expression to what we are carrying, is really important. So that's the second one. It's from many perspectives very important in healing. And then finally, there is also a potential to make connections and remind ourselves of the human connection that exists. We're not even talking about making new friends. There are other places where you can make friends. Sure. It's more about, how do I meet another human as a human, not a potential, sexual partner or potential employee, or, not a role, but as a human. I think those 3 things they're really just a workout, expression, and human connection. It's, once a week. It's a wonderful thing to have.
I mean, let's break those down, because it's a really nice way you spell it out that way. Because I was just on the Conscious Dance conference group earlier, and I posed the question, like, what's conscious dance for? And I gave a list of potential. I said, 1, not for anything, it's just pure play. 2, it's for expression. 3, it's for therapeutic work. 4, it's for learning. 5, it's for connection. And of course, most people said it's everything, but I was left with the question of, like, yeah, but what's being served? What's primary? Because we can't optimize for all those things. Someone said exercise. I'd totally forgotten that, actually, because I view that as quite different. I never think of exercise when I go there, but I guess for some people, I'm blessed in that way. I move quite a lot, whereas for some people, is there any movement in a week? And for me, there's something when I go, like, I reconnect to myself. That's number 1. I'm not interested in doing partner work for the first half hour, And then there's something about natural human connection that does come up, and it might be playful or sexy or just being seen, like being witnessed. And then there's something else around, like, I notice creativity comes through. I often have my best ideas that evening, and there's something, and it's got an almost spiritual quality. It's like a inspirational quality to it, So there's some of the things, but I think the conscious dance world is still left with this challenge of, okay, yeah, but what's it really for? What is your primary purpose here? And I don't think it's good enough to say, well, it's different things for different people, because while that's true, the method or the form does optimize for something. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's been a challenge all these years to explain, and that's why we don't sell so well. That's because we don't know. So I landed with those 3 that I mentioned. That it's
you got 3. Bam, bam, bam.
It's a workout. It's an way to express what we can't express in other places, and this is a place, this element of human connection that we get. I think after, I almost talked like I was talking off the top of my head, but that's because it crystallized in the last couple of years that these are the 3 for me.
And there can be other things, but they're the 3 main ones for you. And it's something like, I want to know what's on the can. Is it that this is going to be fun and it's going to be like a state high? I think conscious dance is quite guilty, as it were, of kind of hitting state highs a lot. And then and then I think Open Floor have tried to kind of move much more into the learning space. I'm actually learning something here, which is different and may involve verbal debriefs and different things, and then it's like, well, which do I want? Do I just want a holiday from my life and to get high, which is totally valid, or do I actually want to learn something which may be harder work, but maybe more useful after the high is worn off? I think that's a tension in conscious dance.
I think that's why, for example, in freedom dance, we have 3 levels of practice.
Right.
And so we think that we need to keep our doors really open wide.
Uh-huh.
And if someone wants to come and have a nice time because they love to dance, that's a perfectly valid reason.
Totally fine, yeah.
So, but then if someone wants to do quite advanced explorations, for example, like tomorrow I'm starting an ongoing group in Cambridge where we're going to do Here I Am, which includes someone standing in front of the group of 20 or 30 people and exploring a particular dilemma or question in front of the whole group. That's quite without any music.
Very challenging, yeah. So
it's still freedom dance. So it's
right.
So it's like I think we need to serve our audience kind of, our 3 levels attempt to do that to some extent. But now we want to have also within the first level, we want to have kind of like level 0, which will be called Freedom Dance Express, which you can do in 1 hour. So because I think the doors are still not open.
No, 2 hours is a big commitment for busy people. Like most people don't go to the gym for 2 hours. Most people don't go to yoga for 2 hours. And I'm lucky I've got a kind of understanding with the teacher. I go to the dance place and I often only do an hour. And the truth is I've got to get to bed, because if I dance till 10 o'clock at night, I'm not going to be in bed by midnight because I'll be so high from the dancing. I'll be adrenaline high, and that means my 6 a.m. start's going to be tricky.
Well, look out for Freedom Dance Express class.
I like it. Express delivery. I get it. But it's such a good idea. And sometimes, you know what, the difference between an hour dancing and nothing is fucking huge, Alex. It's fucking huge. Like for me to dance for 1 hour in the middle of often I'll be doing like a 12-hour work day, pretty brutal, pretty hard. If I can dance for 1 hour, I feel human again. My health doesn't suffer. I'm sustained. I have good ideas. I stop being mean to my colleagues. These are not small things.
I agree. And even less than an hour is good. And I discovered that only recently. I was a maniac. I was a dancing maniac. So it was difficult for me to understand who would say that we should do shorter classes. I said, why?
Why? This is the best thing.
We should do longer classes.
Yeah, let's dance all day. What are you talking about?
But then, of course, I because of the dysplastic hip that I have, it started hurting. Yeah. So now I can't do. Really, I can dance on a good day. I can dance more or less comfortably for about 20 minutes. And I managed to get so much benefits.
Right.
20 minutes. So it opened my eyes. It is possible. It's not like someone's idea. I can do it.
Right. And injuries are so often teachers, aren't they?
So now I record 3-minute freedom dances. I mean, I haven't done it for a while, but that's even 3 minutes, like a shake is good. 20 minutes, great.
I want a 10-minute wave. I want a 10-minute wave, just used to use 5 rhythms terminology that I can do every morning because I can make 10 minutes every day, and it's really hard to find a 10-minute wave on YouTube. I was trying to find one. It was really tricky.
I'll send you some.
There was 2 please do. There was 2 and 3 hour things recorded and playlists. I was like, I don't want a playlist. I want a 10-minute morning up and down, wake up, get in my body. But, and as you say, there's a difference between the daily bread class that we go to regularly, which might just be about expressing ourselves, getting a bit of exercise, and the 2-day workshop that we turn up for, going, right, this is special. It's in my weekend. I don't have to go to work. I've not just come from work. I've slept in. I'm good to go. Or I've gone to a foreign town and my commitment's really there. Like, I'm probably going to do one over New Year's at Findhorn with an open floor group for like 5 days. And this is a very different thing. I'll be expecting to go deep and learn something, and I won't be making work phone calls immediately beforehand. Or, do you know what I mean? It's a different container.
Yeah, it's a very different setup. And we need to serve every need. And there is space for it, which I love.
Oh, Alex, I really like what you do. I didn't realize it was so aligned with my way of thinking, and I'm really enjoying here how making it accessible to people in these different ways. And accessible sometimes means not too hippie. Sometimes it means shorter. Sometimes it means having chairs on the dance floor so people don't think they have to jump around if they're physically ill, or overweight, or elderly, or whatever.
Yeah, and I would like to thank our colleagues from Open Floor who do that, introduce chairs on the floor all the time.
All right, so Alex, one thing I've become aware of is maybe the sort of shadow side of this freedom urge. So listening to, a lot of people on the Conscious Dance group for the Conscious Dance conference, which will be gone by the time this is over, but the recordings will be available, and talking to a lot of Conscious Dance friends and having a lot of Conscious Dance students who come to Embody Facilitator course, I've become aware of a couple of things. Like, one is a certain amount of chaos. Like, there seems to be and we've had this a little bit in this interview, haven't we, with deliveries and things. And the other one is an urge for freedom, which is so strong, it can be almost like, fuck you, dad. It can be almost a little teenage, or a little, I've seen it being a bit obnoxious, a little bit of almost like a paranoia of don't cage me in. And I've really was noticing this in some of the discussions on the conference group, and nice people, smart people, but it had this tone to it of freedom loving to the point of being badly boundaried or something. Do you know what I'm getting at? Do you come across this?
Not that I can immediately relate to this. Maybe I just didn't have a recent experience. I mean, this is, it's. Just to quote Gabriel Roth, one of my dear teachers, it takes a great discipline to be a free spirit, and I think it's often not acknowledged that that's kind of because we are in such a free practice, so everything needs to be free. So we kind of sometimes ignore maybe the basic hygiene of boundaries and invention, things that actually work, particularly if we have to work together.
Right.
So
there's a lot of
I can see and I can relate to that. Yes.
Yeah. On the one hand, I see like sometimes over authoritarian approaches like super copywriting and people getting very controlling in this world. But then equally, I see there's a lot of, there's about 100 different types of conscious dance now. There's a lot of splitting off. There's a lot of don't tell me what to do. There's a lot of that kind of vibe. And something I'm primarily an outsider, even though I've danced for a while. And there's something in that feels off to me. And I do consistently come across it.
I worked for a management consultancy called McKinsey, which is probably, it's the first.
I know them.
First historically, and probably still a prominent one. So, and people, if they are partners in that firm, they are millionaires, right? So it's quite a lucrative field. And then I was in this field for a while of conscious dance, where we started, we don't make as much money. It's not a lucrative as such. And I don't know, I keep making the comparisons, and I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe from the lack of, there's no plenty, really. I've seen better relationships, actually, in the business world. People say,
Me too.
Thanks. You must be happy that you left it. No, I was perfectly fine. They were perfectly reasonable people, reasonable in a way that respectful and friendly and working towards a mission rather than money. But maybe because it was a comfortable place, so kind of plenty, really, materially, it was possible. Whereas I don't see that often. We are a new emerging field, and I think it's a huge challenge, and we need to be both aware of the shadow sides of this, but also kind of appreciate what people who actually serve and embark on this. We need to appreciate that it's still very pioneering stage.
Yeah.
We created this ICMTA, which is International Conscious Movement Teachers Association, only 5-6 years ago. And to really say, we need to demystify this whole field. We need to recognize, what may be true in the 60s and the 70s, that it was like something unusual. You need to be a particular type of person. You need to have a special type of music. There is a special energy and all these things. That's natural. That's where we're coming from. We need to.
Yeah.
But now we live in 2019. We have become a profession, so we need to be able to use operational language to explain to people what it is, just like you do in your embodied facilitator training.
Yeah.
We need to be able to have clear ethics and professional standards. We need to be able to belong to a professional association and be accountable for how professional we are. And, it comes with this demystification of the field, and professionalization of the field will come, I believe, eventually, gradually, will come this sort of more balanced approach to how we decide things, how we work together, how respectful and overall kind of balanced we are in everything. So I think it's just a growth thing. We are so young still.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sort of teenage phase in many ways, isn't it? And as you say, maybe there's an insecurity because the abundance isn't there, and there's a sort of hierarchy of needs stuff. And it's in another way, it's difficult to sort of know who's any good in dance. So, unlike say a competitive martial art or a business world, it can be difficult, and that I think can lead to egos as well. There's also this sort of idea that and I think Gabrielle Roth really put this in, that while we owe her a huge debt, obviously, there was put in this idea of the sort of mystical. And I certainly feel that when I dance, there is an element of the mystical, but I think it can also create distance or exoticism, or people that think they have magic powers, And so I think there's a shadow side to that. And these things combined can lead to something which isn't necessarily attractive to the average person. There's this great episode of Rainbow Rhythms from Peep Show. Did you ever see that one?
Of course, yeah.
Of course, you know that one. Well, I often share that with people when they say, "What do you do on Wednesday nights?" And I actually share that clip, and they laugh. And most of the conscious dancers I know watch that laugh, and the other half don't laugh, and that's a concern to me.
Well, I laugh at it because I think it's very. I say that, I do this.
To be able to laugh at oneself is pretty important, isn't it?
I think it's pretty funny, that one, and I think this is actually that's fine. That's really fine to acknowledge that's where we're coming from, but it doesn't mean that we need to be stuck in it.
Yeah.
So that's why we are working really, really seriously to make it accessible in this way as well. Yes, Gabrielle Roth and Anna Halprin and everyone else, there is an element of mystery, of course, in life. We are both earth and sky, both the flesh and the body and the spirit. That's not visible and invisible, tangible and intangible. There will always be mystery, but we don't need to make it to bring it to the foreground. You can benefit from dance meditation just focusing on the very specific things, very physical things that you do. So yeah, that's been my mission, really, to find the language, to find a very gentle and balanced approach that does not deny us the complexity of our nature, human nature, that is in between the earth and the sky, the physical and spiritual, and at the same time be really accessible, really simple, really easy to grasp, and try here and now without any of that language. So that's I think it's of critical importance for someone like me, for the whole community, to acknowledge our roots, but also move forward in how we talk and teach.
Nice. Well, I like what you're doing. I like your approach to it. It's also nice to see someone out there, from a different cultural background, and how, you were talking about the sort of Russian influence there. So shout out to all our droogs in Russia. I know we have quite a lot of listeners from Russia and many, many mutual friends from the dance world there. So shout out to all our Russian listeners. Maybe last question here before I ask, where to find your stuff. What do you see as the future of the conscious dance world in, say, 30 years, 50 years?
Well, 30 or 50 years, I didn't think about it really. But when I first came to Russia, when I ran my first workshop on the 30th of October, I think, 10 years ago, I already had this dream that at that time I was giving myself 8 years or something. I said, I want to have classes every day of the week in Moscow so that they can come and dance for free with my students. And that happened already. So yeah, it is one city. But really, I think in about 10 years time, we should become mainstream, really. So that's my vision, or at least as familiar and as recognizable as a term, as a field, as, for example, yoga.
Right. Why not? Why not? Hey, because yoga was weird hippie shit. Maybe your hippie auntie did in the 80s. And then the 90s happened and yoga became normal. And now it's on every street corner. It's just normal now. So why not conscious dance, eh?
Yeah. I think it's exactly what I'm working towards. I think I was like 10 years ago when I started, I was giving myself 20 years. So I have another 10 years to do that together with others, of course, but to do my part in taking us to that place where everyone knows. I'm so inspired when someone like 10 days ago told me, "Oh, you teach conscious dance." That's what you're saying. I mean, this is the first sign.
Yeah. That's like, whoa, it's so cool.
Or if I go to India and there are like 7 people and sitting and someone asks, "Oh, what do you do?" And I start to explain freedom dance, la 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 la, and she says, "Oh, we have a lot of freedom dance in Berlin." It's called conscious dance.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Like I'm doing the word embodiment spreading in the same way, and I'm bumping into it. And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know an embodiment teacher." Oh yeah, and they'll say someone. I'm like, "I train them," or "I know them," or "My teacher trained them." You know, there's more and more of these kind of links cropping up now, and I think the world's going to be radically. We're going to be like, let's say I have you on the show in 20 years or even 10 years. I think we're going to have a very different set of discussions, because I think the problems will be like, "Oh, this has got so commercial and all this money's involved and there's all these TV stars." It's going to be like, "Hey, who's that guy on the TV?" Like it's going to be like a completely different conversation. Right?
Yeah, but things are changing so rapidly, so we don't even know what it's going to look like and what people will be doing.
We don't know what the world's going to be like. It could be global economic and ecological collapse, and we'll be dancing around fucking the ruins of civilization. Like, who knows, right? Okay, back down to earth. Where can people find your stuff online?
Well, it's very easy. Our main website is www.freedom-dance.com. And so that's the main content, I would say, is our calendar, is our schedule. So that's where it is, and the best way to experience what we do is to come to our classes or workshops, because it is a physical practice. It's not enough to sit and chat and Facebook or watch videos. So you need to do it.
You got to do it.
Get on that dance floor.
And it's in English and Russian. So do you have let's do a closing message about the body in Russian today, just for a little treat for our poor Russian listeners who are used to listening to my English at 1,000 miles an hour. So closing message about the body in Russian, if you don't mind, Alex.
Of course. Я очень рад был пообщаться на эту тему. И тело в настоящее время является тем, о чем часто забывают. И то, что мы делаем, мы возвращаем баланс между вот этим умом, этой интеллектуальной деятельностью и телом. То есть я за баланс, и танец — это самый лучший способ найти этот баланс. So I just said that our dance is a good way, is a good bridge or equalizing, kind of bringing balance between the body and the intellectual, rational mind that we are obsessed with. So that's my message. Let's dance.
Spasiba, thank you so much for joining us today. Some ways to get more, to give back, and to get more involved now. So the biggest request I have would be to share the podcast with your friends, people that you think would really enjoy it. Email it to them, put it on your social media, tell them about it, old school. Really appreciate that. Equally, if you want to support us financially, you can go to Patreon. That's patreon.com/embodiment podcast and give us $1 an episode. And I'd say they're well worth $1. So that's less than £1 if you're in UK-ish. So yeah, please go there. On the embodifacilitator.com website is where this is hosted. If most people I think listen to for iTunes. iTunes, we'd certainly appreciate a review. The way iTunes works means that a review means more people will find it. iTunes regards it as more important for searches. So even a couple of sentences review really does help as a little thank you to us. And if you want to go to embodifacilitator.com, you can see the actual, links to the sites. There's comments on there. The Facebook group tends to be where people discuss things. So if you go to put in the Embodiment podcast into Facebook, there's a page which is relatively quiet and a group which does have some discussion on. So I will reply to things personally there. So also on embodifacilitator.com website, there's all sorts of freebies there. There's videos, there's free ebooks, there's ebooks you can buy. And of course, there's our newsletter list. If you want to stay in touch and learn about things like the Embodied Facilitator course and our next Embodied Yoga Principles teacher training, then go to that website and you'll see a little pop-up and you can get the newsletter through there. Okay, so I think they're the main ones. Tell your friends, pay us some money on Patreon, give us a review on iTunes, send us your email if you want to be on the newsletter list, and get involved on the Facebook there. Bit long. Pick whatever you like that works for you. Until next time, welcome home to the body.